Hi, friends. Thanks for being here, for listening and watching. My name is Tara Long, and today I would love to explore staying in honor in your sovereignty practices and natural law practices. How do we stay in honor, and what does that mean? There are different ways that one can be and stay in honor, right? In natural law, we talk about honor and dishonor. So if you're out of alignment with the laws of nature, you're already in dishonor. Um, and we can use this not only in our sovereignty practices, but in our life as well, right? I'll give some examples as we go along here. Um, there's something I teach in my course called conditional acceptance, where we say someone is asking us to do something or saying we have to do something, right? It's mandatory, or they're making a claim, right? And the one who makes the claim has the burden of proof, okay? And we're going to talk about equity too. So the one who makes the claim is the one that has to prove that that's true, okay? So in these sovereignty practices, it's really easy to learn and have knowledge, and you can know where the codes and the statutes and where this information and knowledge comes from, and it's all there, by the way. Like all of the laws and codes and statutes, all of those things exist to make your claim. However, if you are in argument, if you are in dispute, if you are just saying no, all of these things put you in dishonor. Okay, so we want to stay in honor. This is in alignment with natural law, with the laws of nature, right? Staying in honor, saying this is about being peaceful and calm and not. Don't get me wrong. There are times when anger is necessary and useful in life. Absolutely. Certain kind of anger, right? Not just reactionary anger from a pattern or wounding, right? That's different. Um, Getting off track. So how do we stay in honor? So if you're using conditional acceptance, staying in honor would be something like someone asks you to do something. Can you do XYZ? Right? And I've used this example before, but during, the height of, COVID, there were people that would ask you to wear a mask in a store, right? I lived in LA at the time. It was every place that you would go into, inside, not even inside, outside, they were asking you. And so saying, well, no, F off, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. You're an idiot. You could do all those things and they may well even be true, but that would be an example of dishonor, right? So staying in honor would say, well, you know what? I'd be happy to. But first, I need you to prove to me that, whatever you want. You could go so many routes with that. Prove to me that viruses exist. Okay, what's your claim? Your claim is viruses, can't penetrate the mask or whatever, right? Okay, let's go for the gold. Can you prove to me viruses exist? No one can, by the way. So and the idea is with this conditional acceptance, you're asking things that cannot be proven. Can you guarantee 100% without a doubt that wearing a mask will do no harm to me, physically, mentally, emotionally? Okay, you're asking these questions that really can't be answered, right? Or really can't be proven. And so, but you're not saying, no, you're an idiot, get out of my face. You're not doing that, right? Because that's dishonor. So staying in honor um, would be to, sure, I'll do that, but can you prove to me this? Okay, so another way. that you and I go through in more detail conditional acceptance and stuff in my course and examples and things like that. If you're interested, if that interests you at all. And you can, of course, you can, all of this information is out there, so you can go and research it and learn it for yourself. And you can use that in life too, right? In a lot of different situations and scenarios. And if anyone is ever asking you to do anything, that doesn't align for you, authority or otherwise. So now I want to talk about equity. Okay, it's something that is a very hot topic, I guess, for lack of a better word, in the sovereignty space. And there's a good reason for it, because it's it's staying in honor. There are these maxims of equity, right? And if you Google equity maxims or maxims of equity, you'll find like 12 maxims of equity, of which I've seen more than 12 for sure. I bet it'll explain, what that is, what they are, and it's really being in alignment with truth, nature, staying in honor, um, asking questions. Okay, equity is being equal, right? Equity. So it is making both parties, well, in equity, there has to be someone making a complaint of some kind, right? So that's why, okay, there are courts, there are equity courts, and they're only active in like 5 states. Tennessee happens to be one of those states. But courts don't operate in equity. You could ask for a court in equity. I don't know, if the judge would be willing to do that. But like in equity, in an equity court, you can't have like flags up. It's very just a neutral space, a neutral ground, bringing both parties to wholeness again, right? So whatever way that might happen, it's not necessarily just monetary but there does have to be someone making a complaint. Oh, this person did this to me, right? So there's these maxims of equity. Maxims is basically something that, and they do have these maxims in Black's Law Dictionary. So it's not law per se, but it's a rule that everybody just knows to be true or to hold truth, right? So, for example, an equity maxim, one of them is where there is a right, there is a remedy. Okay, and I've said this probably a million times on this channel, not a million, but a lot. You only have the rights you claim. So where there's a right, a right, not just a right that you have, I have the right to do this, but like a right doing versus a wrongdoing, a right doing, there is remedy for that. So if you are not actually in dishonor yourself, if you have not violated one of the transgressions of natural law, right, which is for more or less do no harm, right, do no harm, then there is a remedy for you. There is a remedy. And even if harm has been done, there can still be a remedy bringing both parties to wholeness. Okay, I'm getting off track here. So there are folks in the sovereignty space who there's almost like 2 camps now. It's like I've heard it called different things: the patriot camp, the freedom patriot camp, and then the equity camp, right? And the thing is in order to maintain balance, you need both of those things, okay? And I'm not saying I'm, patriotic. And I know a lot of folks who do this sovereignty stuff are really into, Constitution and America and all that stuff. And while there can be some value there, it's still men. I mean, when we're talking about Constitution and Bill of Rights, who wrote stuff down to say, here are the rules, And my intention is to actually go deeper than that. That's why I call it natural law. What are the laws of nature, God, universe, whatever you call it? Okay, what's inherent in us that when we're in alignment with that, we can use equity. So I do find there is a place for knowing and taking action on things like, um, correcting status and revoking election, all of these things that I talk about and that are all in my Be Free course. I feel, for me anyway, it's been very valuable for me to know those things and to take the action on them, because the action, it's not, and I know I've said this a million times, it's not just about paperwork and doing the action. It actually moves you along your path of deeper embodiment, okay, of sovereignty and freedom inside. So know the knowledge, know what, the statutes and the codes and the laws and this is beautiful information to have. What has been done, and how did we get here, and what is the deceit, and what are the options for remedy to remedy that in a physical way. Okay. So I think that's very important. And knowing that you can know that, and you can have paperwork done all day long and know it up here and go, yeah, 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 okay, that's that. But if you haven't embodied your own sovereignty, then all the paperwork in the world is, it could help you, but it's going to help you so much more if you actually know who you are as a living man or woman, and you actually embody that. You know your nature. Basically, you know your nature, and you 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 be from that place, for lack of a better, and do you be and you do from, from nature, from a place of knowing that you are also nature and there's no separation, right? So that connection is so important. So equity, getting back to equity. So equity is something that I feel it's still important to have the knowledge, because equity is about asking questions to get a certain outcome, or it's called to compel performance. So if you're in a courtroom and if you make a claim, I am this, if you're saying, arguing jurisdiction or whatever, which by the way, does and can work. I just did it in my traffic court case. But say if you're doing that, then you have to prove that claim, right? You have to have everything to back it up. And, I did have all that stuff to back it up. So it works. Also, however, you don't even need that. You can also ask the questions to compel the performance that you want. You can ask the judge or the police officer, or, the men and women acting as those things. But you don't have to know all of law and, know everything. I mean, God knows nobody can ever know everything in this field. You know what I mean? Like it's, yeah, that would be, you'd be studying your whole life and you'd still have more to learn. So, but you still have to know some of these things in order to ask the right questions. Okay. So yes, equity is important, and it can also work. Say we're talking about like in a court case or something, but you still have to know some things. You still have to know what the heck you're asking so that you can get the outcome that you're looking for. Okay. But this is also staying in honor, because you're not arguing, you're not defensive, you're not making claims, really. I mean, you can, and that's another route that you could go, but you're just asking questions, very pointed, very important questions. Like in my court case, I was asking for a court of record so that we could go on to, because in the traffic court, there's no court of record. It's not even really a real court, but, and he did not want to give me that, the judge. So I was asking questions, Your Honor. I was asking about my car, or the automobile that I travel in, is in a trust. Here's the trust. Does this court have jurisdiction in this trust? Just asking the questions. And, but I am going to do a whole video on that. I know I've been saying that for a while, and I will, but I have to piece everything together, and he didn't know the answer, or he didn't want to say, in open court, even though they cleared everybody else out of the room before he would talk to me. So, I just want to make sure I'm getting everything here. So, yeah, I think I've got most of it. But when you're not answering questions, you're not stating things, and then you're not contracting also. Okay, so that's also part of staying in honor is you're not contracting when you're asking questions instead of answering them. Like when I got, pulled over, and of course, I'm not, disclaimer, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. You got to do what feels right for you. But I let the officer know I would not be answering questions. But I would, but I asked a lot of questions. And I did, I think he asked me about my license plate, which I did share knowledge about that. But um, yeah, so equity is beautiful and can be used in all different arenas of life. A lot of people really get into it when they have some sort of court case that they have to go for, and they're like, oh crap, and yeah, so that's a route that you can go, but I find it, but I also know folks, myself included, who have gone to court with a claim and have backed up that claim, affidavits, et cetera, and that can also work. There's no magic bullet. There's no it's there's no black and white. There's nothing that's guaranteed 100% of the time. So many different variables, so many things going on if we're talking about like a court case or something. But you have the controls, the healthy control over yourself, your knowledge, your embodiment of you, and what you bring forth. So it does matter. I believe the energy matters so much. I'm going to talk about it in what happened with my court case. All these weird little things happened leading up to it. And I believe, I feel in my being that because the vibration, the frequency, if you will, of me and where I'm coming from, where I am and how rooted and grounded and not in fear and not in argumentative space, not in an F off everybody, space, but just in a very peaceful, calm, knowing space of who I am, um, and very firm and very strong. And that system is is not that system wants to like take it requires a vulnerability to take you and suck you in and like and toss you around. Now I'm not saying that things don't happen to people, right? Like people, there are definitely things that happen with people in court. I mean, even if you're just a normal person and you don't know anything about sovereignty and you hire a lawyer, an attorney, I mean, it's a gamble. It's always going to be in court no matter what. But asking questions is power. It's where your power is. It's powerful. And you can ask the right questions to compel a certain performance and get the outcome that you desire. Okay. I don't teach like the equity maxims and all that. There are courses that people teach on equity. I know of two or three that I've heard of that I've seen. They're usually, a good 2 to 3 grand to take those courses, and I'm sure it's totally worth it. I haven't taken any of those courses, so there's nothing I can recommend to you. Um, but they're out there. So if it's something that interests you and you want to learn more, um, go for it. Go for it. And if you want to learn more about the basics of becoming more sovereign inside and outside and doing some paperwork that will help move you along your path, then I have a course called Be Free. Link is below. I also have a class called Create Your Own Private Membership Association, which is how I operate my work that I do in the world. And that link is below too. You can always get a 15-minute consultation with me to see if working together is a good fit. If you have questions, want to strategize, want to learn conditional acceptance, anything like that, I do one-on-ones as well. So check out all the links below. I have a new website, so check that out too if you'd like. I'm really happy with it. So it's always a good feeling. It feels like, I had a website for so many years and then going to this new one, it's like, it feels more like me, right? So that feels really good. So anyway, thank you so much for being here, for listening, for watching. If you have a comment, you can leave that below as well. And I look forward to seeing you soon.